Happy Halloween, comic geeks, and welcome back to the Script Heroes podcast. We are here today to talk about Halloween specials in the comic book industry. We've got players from DC, Marvel, IDW, Dynamite, Zenoscope. Everything you could want in a Halloween special is to come. And all of it organized into a beautiful tier list. Jay, would you like to take us through our tiers?
Yeah, okay. So we decided at some point in the process to do it based off of, like, essentially things you might get trick-or-treating. So we're going to compare these to our trick-or-treat treats for Halloween, where we would rank them, you know, as if we were kids excited to get these in our pillowcases. Did you trick-or-treat with a pillowcase, Katie?
I was going to say, I'm glad that you're a man of taste who uses a pillowcase. It's how you keep the most candy in there.
Yeah, you can't hold enough candy in those stupid little baskets.
Exactly, those little pails, whatever.
Yeah, no, you need a pillowcase.
You need a pillowcase.
So at the top of the tier list, we have unattended bowl. You can take the whole thing then. You know, like, that's the best. You take that whole bowl like a horrible child that you were. Then we have king size as the next tier up. Getting a king size candy bar. Is there anything better on Halloween?
The Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail. We had a guy called the Candyman that we would go to who was specifically, like, far away, so we'd have to drive to him. But he'd give out a full thing with, like, 4, you know, king-size candy bars in it.
Was he a murderer of folk legend?
No, he worked for, I think it was not Hershey. What's the other one? Like, Mars or whatever?
Mars,
he worked for,
yeah, hell yeah.
For, like, M&M, you know.
Nothing but M&M's, boy.
Yeah. Then we have snack size. You don't mind the snack size bar, you know, like, that's fine.
That's the standard.
That's a solid little treat. Yeah, that's what you expect.
Baseline, you're getting free candy.
Yeah. Then as we start to move into the slightly negative too, we got healthy snack. Like, maybe this is gonna be okay. You know, it's not gonna hurt you, but, like, really, you're giving out a healthy snack on Halloween.
Like, am I gonna be mad if one of the houses gives me a water bottle? Not really. I'll be like, oh man, that sucked, but then I'll drink the entire water bottle. So, you know.
Yeah. Under that, we got plastic junk. This is, like, sometimes they give out, like, those crappy rings or something. Like, it's like, okay. Like, at least you're trying. But, you know, not great.
Not great.
And then at the very bottom, we have razor blade. You reach in, your hand got cut. You didn't just not get anything good. You're getting cut up now, where there's, like, your razor blade in your snack. It's going to kill you. You're dead. Yeah. Halloween's over. This is just the worst.
Exactly. Literally, there was never a single instance of razor blades and candy found, but such a cultural impact.
It's very, you know, it's part of the lore.
Part of the lore. But speaking of razor blades and rings, Jay and I have leaned into our theming for this episode. It's Halloween themed. We're in our Halloween costumes. We have Bombshell's Batwoman and
Katie forced me to dress up for this. I feel like that's an important bit of context. So I've got my Guy Gardner costume that barely fits from years ago now. So we're gonna be wearing these for the duration of the video because we are.
I am so excited. He walked in without a costume and very kindly when he saw that I had grease paint all over my face was like, okay, I guess I'll go put something on. Which I appreciate.
I really did not think you were going to commit to the bit that hard.
There is no bit I will not commit to.
Like, when Katie was like, I'm going to dress up, you should dress up too, I was like, okay, Katie's going to come in with, like, a little mask or something, like that Leonardo mask that she wore for... Then I was like, that's fine, she'll look a little stupid, and I don't have to wear anything. And then she shows up, like, with grease paint and, like, this, and I'm like, fucking hell. Okay.
You're a good friend, Jay. Yes.
We rambled. Katie, you want to tell us what our first stop on?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the Hellboy Jr. Halloween special from 1997, and we're going to specifically talk about the story "The Devil Don't Smoke." This is a take on an old German folk tale. I was doing some research into it because I was very curious about what this German folk tale was, and Mike Mignola has never said what the folktale was, and Googling
sounds like him.
These German folktales was not particularly lucrative, but I believe it's the figure of Frischütz, who is a marksman who made a contract with the devil and got a certain number of bullets that he could use, and they would like always find their mark, and the last one he reserved for the devil. So I believe that's the one we're looking at here. But young Hellboy Jr. Is he doesn't want to study his Latin. He wants a like real human tutor who can show him how to speak Latin. And so he is goaded by this little imp to go into the human world, even though he's not supposed to, without the permission of the big horned guy. They didn't say who it was, and I'm not familiar with the lore of Hellboy Jr. Maybe the devil, mayhaps. Mayhaps. But he goes into this little German town, and he's learning what a man is, essentially, because he like looks at a baby and he's like, is that a man? And the imp is like, no, that will be a man. And then he looks at an old guy and he's like, is that a man? And the imp is like, no, that was once a man. And then he encounters a man who has this big old gun, and he's like, do you smoke? And Hellboy enthusiastically goes, yeah! And then the man shoots him in the face and sends him back to hell. So, Jay, this is our first one we're talking about here. The question is, what is your breakdown of criteria when looking at this? Are we looking at stuff that is a good Halloween story? Are we looking at stuff that
I didn't think about that.
Oh wait, I'm so sorry. It's
I was
Hellboy.
not
It was
thinking
written
about the
and
Halloween
drawn by
factor.
Mike Mignola. I didn't do the credits for it. But that whole special was also devised with Bill Ray, and he did additional dialogue for this story.
Yeah.
For
So
your criteria.
yeah, I wasn't actually thinking about the like how good of a Halloween specific story. That's a good criteria to add in. That's not something when I was like making notes on this stuff that I had really taken into account. But I feel like that's a good criteria to add in.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start off right at the bat. The going with that, I don't know if this is our strongest Halloween themed story. Like this is, I think, pretty. I was saying typical Hellboy is weird, but it's like it doesn't really break ground for a Hellboy type story, you know.
In fact,
that being
I'd say
said,
it's in general less Halloween-y than most Hellboy.
Yeah, that's fair. It's also, I don't know that I enjoy it as much as I enjoyed a lot of Hellboy. Like it's I thought it was very solid. I thought it was fun. But I don't know, it didn't quite land for me. I think it was a little bit weirdly for Hellboy, a little bit stretched out for what the story is. Like, I think I usually give Hellboy a lot of credit for being like, Mike Mignola will use the absolute least amount of pages to tell whatever story he wants to tell possible. And I don't know if that was the case with this story.
So what tier are you putting it in?
I think this is I'm between healthy snack and snack size. Like is the worst of Mike Mignola and Hellboy still positive? Possibly.
I'm gonna try to nudge us towards snack size, and it's for a very specific reason. I think you're right that it doesn't meet Halloween criteria very well. We've got a little bit of Hellboy going like door to door looking at these people, but it's not in a trick-or-treaty parody way.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't feel like a Halloween specific adventure. But seeing Mike Mignola's art on this, which is why I chose this story out of all of the ones from the special, because it was Mike Mignola drawing Hellboy Jr., that's really fun to me, and I quite liked that. So I would push more.
Yeah,
that's
what I think. The worst of Mike Mignola is still good. You know?
Exactly.
Like I don't.
I'm never gonna be upset that I am having a Mike Mignola snack.
I forgot we have like all the like full comic cover sizes here, so these are all gonna stretch out as we put things in them. So we might have to readjust the screen a little bit at some point, but. Up next, we have the Mighty Marvel holiday special, Halloween with the Rhino. This was a scrolling comic.
Which I think is DC. I think Infinity Comics is DC's like webtoony.
Marvel.
Yes, Marvel's. DC's doing their webtoonies, but
they are with DC Go, I believe. But this is writer Ryan North and artist Tom Riley. So this this story follows kind of a broadcast warning people not to go trick or treating as villains, like dressed up as villains, because that would be bad. you could, get in some trouble in the Marvel world. I like that they touched on that because I've always thought it was weird when like, DC and Marvel stories have people dressing up as like supervillains, and I'm like, that feels like a really weird thing to have happening in your world.
I mean, a fun addendum to that, one of my favorite things is at Batburger in Gotham, you can like jokerize your fries, and I'm like, that feels like so accurate to what it would be like if there was an iconic figure like the Joker running around in your city. Like, they're absolutely going to lean into it. It's big Wendy's Twitter energy.
But in any case, these two kids kind of decide, okay, we can't go as a villain. Let's go as Spider-Man. And weirdly, instead of just each dressing up as Spider-Man, they make themselves into like a joint Spider-Man where like
so
one
they can
sits on
be
the other
Spider-Man
shoulders.
height.
And then Rhino, who is written to be just the dumbest lad in this story, mistakes them for the real Spider-Man. They get into a confrontation. When they break apart into their two spots, he says spiders can split into multiple little spiders, and so it makes sense. Get into a big fight. The real Spider-Man ends up coming in. Rhino kind of learns he has like a therapist now, I guess, and he's like trying to lean into being kind of a better person, and that's kind of the nice note we end off on after Spider-Man kind of saves the day and gives Rhino a little talking to be like, you should be a good lad. Yeah, Kate, how did you feel about
in terms of being a Halloween story, it has that in spades. It's set on Halloween. The plot revolves around trick-or-treaters. I thought it was cute. Like you said, Rhino was written to be incredibly dumb, but in a way that I think is not uncommon for villains in like all ages style comics. Like, it's not necessarily the best way to do your villain, but it is a good way to soften them, so you're not like, oh yeah, this person is evil, they're just dumb and can be rehabilitated, because you don't want children to see themselves in a character and be like, I'm gonna be evil forever. It was a little much a lot of the time. But I think it was still quite fun, and I did like
it was fun.
The Spider-Man of it all. I liked when Spidey came in. I liked that at the very end, Rhino is like trying to decide if he's going to be naughty or nice or whatever, and Spider-Man has like hung up a little Spider-Man ornament so it looks like he's watching from a nearby rooftop, and I thought that was a fun little cutaway to then Pete just schnoozing. So I think it was a fun little guy. And I think it is the definition of what like a snack size comic is.
I basically fully agree with you. I think it was kind of just a fun comic. It was a lot of fun. It was entertaining. It leaned into the Halloween of it all well. But boy, was Rhino written as just so ridiculously caricature. Yeah, like it was just super dumb. I don't read a lot of Spider-Man and Marvel, so I don't know how Rhino typically is, but I have to assume he's not usually this ridiculously dumb. So yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a solid snack size. But where
I think below Hellboy.
All right, we'll put that below Hellboy.
But that's mostly just Hellboy bias.
Yeah.
All right, but next up we have the Transformers 2021 Halloween special. Whispers of a Disembodied... this is Dan Waters, our new best friend, because he's going to be writing Nightwing, so he's my new best friend.
You hear us talk all about that on Wednesday's episode.
Yes. So excited. And the artist is Bethany McGuire-Smith. Whispers of a disembodied spark, howling alone in the desert, are floating around Cybertron. Whispers of Starscream's loyalty to Megatron's cause are also floating around. Frustrated and needing some space to clear his head, Starscream visits the desert and is surprised to actually hear the rumored screams. He follows the sound and is met with a creature that makes him question what it means to be a cybernetic being. Starscream faces off with this grotesque experiment in I Have No Mouth and I Must Starscream, which is such a good title.
It's such a good title.
So he wanders out into the desert to take care of this because he thinks it might be the Autobots. And his former mentor her spark has been trapped in this like little organic being that she then uses to try to steal Starscream's body. It's like a weird kind of horrifying book. Jay, how did you feel about it?
I thought this was really, really weirdly fantastic. Like
Right?
I really enjoyed this. And I'm not a big Transformers guy. Obviously, you know, the Daniel Warren Johnson run we read, and we have been in the new Energon universe, but I don't have much Transformers information or history or anything like that. But this was really freaking good.
So
Firstly,
good.
the art was phenomenal. Like,
Astounding.
just kick-ass, fantastic art. But it was a really cool story, too, with, like it wasn't super, like, hit you over the head Halloween, like the Marvel holiday special we just talked about. But, like, you know, the kind of thing of, like, oh, a disembodied voice that people are hearing and steering clear. Like, it had that little, you know, kind of Halloween tinge to it.
Like that ghost story vibe. Which I think very much counts towards being a Halloween special when it's not something that normally deals with ghost stories.
Yeah, but the way that they kind of, like, built that into Transformers lore with, like, the spark and then, like, them battling inside of a human's body as sparks. Like, there was just so much cool ideas here. Like, it felt like really taking a look at what you could do with some of these concepts and, like, pushing it. And I thought that was awesome, especially for a story that kind of just follows villains, you know, in a weird way. So, as somebody who often thinks villain one-shots and villain miniseries don't really work, I was fully proven wrong on this one. I think this is such a good way to do it. So, yeah, I love this. I thought this was phenomenal. I might put this in unattended bowl. I thought this was
this is definitely, in terms of, like, Halloween specials, this is absolutely an unattended bowl.
Yeah, like this felt like just
I feel we should disclaim
there, man.
It's also got the benefit of being one of the few full-sized issues. Like, a lot of the other ones were anthology-sized stories.
I think we have a few.
We have a few.
Yeah,
we have a few, but it's the first one, and I wanted to give it that disclaimer that it did have the room to spread its wings. Starscream, pun intended.
Absolutely. But that, I think it's honestly a weirdly a hidden gem. You know, like like there's a random Halloween special out there that just was one of the, like, really good one shots that I've read.
Yeah,
like, really, really great.
Amazing.
But anyway, we're gonna move on to Troll. I don't know if you've ever engaged with it. I've never ever even heard of Troll before you threw this out there.
But so it had the Max on it, so I was like, we'll throw it in there.
Yeah. So this is the Troll Halloween special, number 1 from 1994. It is, as Katie hinted at there, a crossover with the Max. This is from writer Andy Mangels, artists Gabe Albarella and Chap Yape. So yeah, this story kind of sees the Max, like, weirdly ending up in the Trolls world, along with what's his villain's name? Is it Mr. Gone? Mr. something.
And Julie.
Mr. Gone. And the Julie. Woman whose name I'm also forgetting.
Julie.
So they kind of all poke over there, and it's a very bombastic, like, it's very 90s.
It is.
But it's essentially them, like, the Max meeting up with the Troll, and then them having to kind of deal with I've already, Mr. Gone. I keep wanting to say Mr. Nobody. I don't know why.
Because Doom Patrol?
Yeah, because Doom Patrol. But, like, I mean, like, I don't know why that connection is like, where I'm
I mean, they're like, both weird, freaky little guys going up against weird, freaky little guys.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to? I don't know that the specific plot made much
a weird
more of
one.
It's a weird one.
As is the tradition of the Max, it's very hard to describe what happens in the Max, because they've got this, like, dream world that's different
Outback,
than the
the
Outback. That's different from the real world.
And now we have, like, 2 worlds in addition to the Outback, so it's just it's extra.
So I think my interpretation, which is a weird thing to say about a Halloween one-shot, is that the regular world is a world shared by the Troll and the Max. Like, shared by the Max, Julie, that's, like, the regular world. Mm-hmm. And through some sort of Mr. Gone fuckery, the Troll is brought into Mr. Gone's version of the Outback when he steals Julie over there.
Yeah, they were both in the Outback at the one point.
Yes, but he steals her, and the Troll gets... Or no, that's not what it is. I think the Troll might be immortal.
That could also track.
Because I think that the Troll is immortal, and he was there in the past in England, and somehow Mr. Gone's version of the Outback is actually in the past in England, maybe. In any case, they have a
I'm
Jack
glad
the
you're not
Ripper
making much
style
more sense of this
chase.
than I did.
No, I'm not. I came in fully confident I was going to be able to, but no, it was just wacky wild.
The Max is hard enough on its own. Like the weird thing is, they were at the very least like in different locations, because like the Max shows up at one point and is like, how did I end up here before he like rolls into the troll? So like there's whether they're in the same world usually or not, like the Max at least change locations randomly after going to the Outback. Like there's some sort of weird, whether it's different universes or just different locations, like there's some sort of weird Max teleportation fuckery going on after he leaves the Outback, which doesn't usually happen, because he usually just ends up, from what I remember,
I think he was pulled into Mr. Gone's world as well.
Yeah.
By Julie. In any case, they have a Jack the Ripper style story, which does get some Halloween points. Like they get a little bit of slasher points. But they get so many points taken away because of, at least for me, because of how just buck wild it was and impossible to follow. So I am very inclined to put this in plastic junk. The art was fun. The
art was fun. I agree, but yeah, no, I'm gonna land with you there. This was a little bit hard to follow.
Yeah,
it was,
and it doesn't help that we are neither that far into the Max or at all in the Troll. So like we were fighting a losing battle coming into this one. So a very subjective plastic junk.
We were absolutely, but I'm gonna agree with you pretty much on all fronts.
Perfect.
Plastic junk there. I'm gonna have to actually start the zoom out here. So that was too much of a zoom out. Why don't you start reading the next one while I start?
I'll start reading the next one. So the next one is the DC Halloween special from 2008, Hell Hath No Fury, and that one is that the one with Etrigan?
Yes, it's and Mr. and Mrs. like S and B or something like that.
I believe it's Mr. S and Mr. B.
No, it's is it Mr. B and Mrs. S? I believe.
I believe they're both Mr. I think you were just reading Mr. S as Mrs. S because of the S.
I almost certainly am.
These two little freaks who are masquerading quite literally as children in Batman and Superman Halloween costumes are attempting to fuck around and like torment people on Halloween, but Etrigan is foiling their plans, which doesn't seem very on brand for Etrigan. It's the day of the demon on Halloween, and he's messing around with people who are trying to do demonic things on Halloween. But we find that Etrigan is doing this as a way of tormenting the tormentors, and then he, because he stops them from being able to get what they want, and then maybe uses the people to poison them in some sort of way. Like they're given poison candy so they die. So they go to hell instead. So Etrigan still does his duty as demon while also, making Halloween fun for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you read the creative team on this?
Oh, I did not. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting to read the creative team on these. It's a writer-artist, Duncan Rolu, and the reason that I chose this one was because I saw how rad his Etrigan looked, and I was like, we need Etrigan.
Yeah, we're big Etrigan fans in this house. Etrigan is such a cool, underutilized DC character, which immediately gives this some bonus points because it's using Etrigan, which is always great. I feel like weirdly Etrigan pops up a ton in DC anthologies.
Oh yeah. Because he's such a little freak.
I think it's such a thing like when they go to a creator and they're like, well, do whatever you want in this, like anthology. They're like, now I can pull out Etrigan because DC doesn't let us use Etrigan in like the big things.
At the end of the day, everyone wants to write rhyming dialogue. It's fun.
Yeah, it is.
That's why Shakespeare did it.
But, in any case, we really follow Mr. B and Mr. S for more of this, like with Etrigan kind of like in the background, or at least like a little bit less of a focal point, which, while I think it was still a very fun story, I think that took away from it a little bit for me.
I hear that.
Like, I think it was one of those things where it was like, I think it'd be more fun to kind of ride with the hero on this one, to really follow Etrigan. So yeah, I thought this was solid. But maybe a little draggy at points, and the art was very good, as you would say.
The art was great.
So, yeah. But that's
So where are you
I'm
thinking?
maybe thinking this is a little bit of a healthy snack.
I'm down for this being a healthy snack. The etrigan of it all, and specifically Duncan Rouleau's art, I think was so great. Which is good on a story that focused on two little guys who I don't care about. Meaning Mr. S and Mr. B, because I care deeply about Etrigan. But
I
speaking of there being three people...
Yeah, let's talk about the Rule of Three from Grimm Fairy Tales Halloween Special 2011. We got 2 writers on this, which is actually kind of few for a Zenescope story. I don't know if you read much Zenescope, Katie, but Zenescope very often has like 4 story writers in addition to whoever writes the script, just because like the people who kind of run the universe are typically, you know, involved with the story stuff. But anyway, the writers on this are Raven Gregory and Ralph Tedesco, and the artist is Marco Cosentino. So we kind of follow I believe he's an investigator, right? Or like a detective
of some kind.
Yeah. Basically, women are being killed, and all of a sudden this serial killer kills like 3 at one time instead of just killing 1 as per usual. And this sets off some alarm bells. So we got our detective really going into this. He talks about how he like lost his wife and his family because of how like wrapped up in this case he's gotten. We get like, maybe because I don't super know the Zenescope universe, I don't really know who this woman is who like shows up and is supposed to like take care of him. But instead she gives him a clue as to like help him find the killer. When he eventually does find the killer, he finds out that the killer is actually kind of a werewolf like type monster. And he has kind of an encounter with this werewolf who he ends up stabbing with a blade because his gun doesn't work. And this was another thing that was given by that woman, telling him that the gun wouldn't work. He kind of drives this werewolf away, and it's kind of left a little open with what I think is was meant to be potential for follow up. Maybe they did follow up on it because the weird woman comes back, I believe, and does a little you know, there's going to be more to this.
I thought
this was pretty cool. Right? You tell us
as
your
someone
thoughts.
who's generally a fan of the kind of like hard-boiled detective vibes, I think this one was a pretty fun one. I think that it dragged a little bit in a lot of the lead up, which, you know, can happen when it's a fine line with detective things where you're like, am I doing too much not detecting before I give everything away? But I think that I really liked the character, the detective. I think that he was a very good presence on the page. And I think that the twist and the turn with the werewolf was super cool and fun. I also liked the way that we sat with the detective as he was grappling with this new thing, and the way that he tricked the werewolf with the blade, I think was, in terms of dialogue, a little clunky and a little bad, but in terms of actual like action, very cool. This was a surprisingly good one for me.
I really enjoyed it. I enjoy a lot of the Zenescope stuff. I think they do a lot because a lot of what they do is like one shots and just like different creative teams on like fairy tale or like typical creatures like werewolves and all this stuff. Like I just think it's a very good like creative way for people to tell cool little stories. Like we had Honor Vincent on the podcast who's done some Zenescope work, and I think it's a good breeding ground for really cool stories a lot of the time, and I think this is really one of them. I really enjoyed this. So
where would you rank it?
What are you thinking? No, it's your turn to keep
I always try to avoid ranking things.
I know. I gotta put it on you.
I kind of want to go king size because I liked it quite a bit.
That's where I want it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's slap it in there.
I think it's a good king. I'm just gonna have to keep zooming out.
I think we're at a good point because I'm wondering how hard it'll be for something to fall into Razorblade.
Yeah, well, I think this should be good. But do you want to take the next one? I believe it's your turn.
Yes, the next one is another DC Halloween special. This is from 2009, and the story is My Turn to Be Scary. Very fun, a 2009 Superman writing from Joshua Williamson, an omen of what was to come. And the artist is Peter Wen. So this takes place at the Daily Planet doing a like Halloween haunted house in the planet. And these teens are not at all afraid of it. And Clark gets it in his head, him and Lois kind of bring them through on a private tour, and Clark uses his superpowers to scare the absolute shit and I believe the literal piss out of one of these kids, one of these teens. So it's Lois leading these teens around inside here, and Clark doing things like his cold breath and his glowing red eyes and stuff like that. With a little silly reveal at the end, which I think was a fun little Halloween moment of Clark being like, "Wait, you just described something that I didn't do." So like the idea that there might actually be a ghost haunting the Daily Planet. So how'd you feel about this?
It was like that like devilish figure.
Yeah.
I thought this was very fun. I feel like this was, in my opinion, a slightly better version of the Marvel Spider-Man story we talked about earlier, where it was like, you know, kind of just a fun story, but this one felt like it didn't need to quite take characters where they, you know, wouldn't go. Like it didn't need to do to, you know, Rhino what that did. You know, whereas this story is still like, I could fully see Superman and Lois, you know, like this felt very in character for them.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. It was Superman using his powers to do essentially a haunted house, which is a really fun Halloween story. I feel like I think it worked really well. I think it was and it was very short too. So it was like this nice short,
it didn't overstay its welcome,
fun story. So yeah, I enjoyed it. How do you feel about it?
I liked it quite a bit. I'm a fan of. I like when Clark and Lois get to just like be goobers together, because they are like two giant fucking nerds, and I love them dearly. So when they get to just kind of fuck around a bit, I think that that's really fun and nice. And I think that Clark using because the big thing is that he's using his super speed to also be there with them. So like, obviously we as the reader are like, oh, he's Superman, he can do that, but it's very much he's just there with them, so he never even disappeared to do these things. I think that was super fun. I like Clark being a goober. I would throw this right into snack size. I think I might put it above Hellboy in snack size.
Yeah, I think I put this at the top of snack size. Like that was a good snack. That's when you get your favorite candy in snack size.
Exactly.
You know, like that's a snack size Kit Kat right there.
I'm sorry, Kit Kat? Is that your favorite candy?
That's everybody's favorite. Who does not like Kit Kats?
That's so not true. It's not that nobody doesn't like Kit Kats. It's that I feel like Kit Kats are just kind of like, they're like middle of the. There's nothing special about them.
No. Kit Kats were always like. Did you do candy trading at the end of Halloween? Like Kit Kats were the valuable one. Like you could get like 2 for 1s and 3 for 1s for Kit Kats.
Absolutely not.
Kit Kats were the only thing worth more than Kit Kats was probably a bag of M&Ms.
See, M&Ms is at the top, and then I feel
I'll give you M&Ms at the top. But that's not a candy bar. Out of the bars, Kit Kat's number 1. You go, but M&Ms is the top snack. For sure, like that's what you want. You want them M&Ms.
You want them M&Ms. No way. Kit Kats are solidly good, but not the top.
What's the top of your bar list? This is so. I can't believe I'm doing a tier list. What did you just say?
So I understand that my top of the list is not the regular one, but neither is Kit Kat.
After she made fun of Kit Kat, she's about to give me something.
No. So the top of, like, right below M&Ms, because everyone knows M&Ms are the top. It's got to be Reese's. That's the best one. In my youth, Reese's were my top after.
Say that again.
Are you about to get into the Reese's debate?
It's Reese's. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
You said Reese's.
Yeah, but you know what
Reese's.
I'm talking about.
It's not Reese's.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't matter.
But no, Reese's are solid. Reese's are solid, but they're not
clearly Milky Ways.
No, you're just hopeless.
It's Milky Ways, then Twix.
I'm not even going to debate you, but it's just kind of, it's like debating, you know, like a child who doesn't know what they're talking about. I just got to, you know, move on.
Okay, Kit Kat. All right,
everybody loves Kit Kats. We're going to do a poll. We're going to do a poll for this on Twitter, like the Tim Drake poll, and I guarantee you Kit Kats is going to win.
I guarantee candy
bars.
Yeah, okay, if it's going up against Milky Way, I'll say it will. If it's going up against
we'll do like Milky Way, Reese's, and Hershey's bar. And I guarantee you Kit Kat will win. Okay. Or maybe we'll throw Crunch in there instead of something, because
Crunch bars
people do
are
like
fun.
Crunch bars.
I feel like Crunch bars like don't exist anymore, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
In any case, that was
let's talk about
my turn to be scary.
Let's talk about Betty Page Halloween special, War of the Worlds. So this is Betty and Lisa. They go on a kind of drive-in, a movie theater date. And as they are watching this movie, actual alien invaders come, they destroy a bunch of cars and stuff. But then the fun little twist at the end is that they actually just wanted to watch the movie. They have like a translator, they get it working, and they're able to be like, oh yeah, we just want to watch the movie. We can fix everything. Don't worry. So they fix everything and they watch the movie, and it was that was kind of the little story. By the way, this is an Erica Schultz appearance,
which is why I picked it.
Erica
the
Schultz
other one
this.
in this 2018 or 2019 special was David Avallone, and I was like, oh no, David Avallone or Erica Schultz.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh man.
A big choice.
But yeah, the artist was also Fernando Ruiz. So Katie, how'd you feel about the Betty Page Halloween special?
This is another one where it was very short and sweet, and it's also another one where I have no idea who any of these characters are. But I thought it was fun. I mean, I have no context for who Betty Page and her girlfriend are, but they had cute chemistry. I think that the actual alien design was like fun in a very classic way. And the easy fix of like, oh, this is how we repaired Junior's toys, and they like zap everything back to normal was a clever way of doing a quick resolution. And I think that a quick resolution was a perfect end for this. And then we can see the like giant mothership kind of hanging in the air above the movie theater or above the drive-in theater as the movie is played. And I thought that was a really fun image. I think it definitely gets Halloween points for like alien invasion. It gets points for Katie because lesbians. And yeah, I enjoyed this quite a bit. How'd you feel?
I agree with you on a lot of that. I like a lot of stuff. I do think it's one of those, like, the setup's a little hard to believe. Like we thought those were junkers, so we, don't really care. We just, like, that was a little bit like, okay, why did you just destroy shit if you're just here to watch a movie? Like, it felt a little bit like,
so they could
this happened so that we could do the twist and not like a, this actually makes sense way. But it was still a fun twist and a fun story. So I'm not like dinging it that hard for that, but it was one of those things where I feel like the twist didn't work backwards as well as it worked forwards, if that makes sense.
That is very, very fair.
But yeah, I thought it was fun.
What are you feeling rank wise?
It's you again. Stop trying to put it on me when it's you. This is you.
I don't think it is me actually, because I gave the summary.
Did you give the summary?
I sure did.
Oh, you did give.
I sure did. Didn't I?
You did not.
I didn't.
No,
never mind. I'm lying.
Get out of here.
Look, I threw myself off with our little candy tangent. I put this in a healthy snack. I don't think that it's like, it doesn't have enough meat on it to be like an actual snack size candy bar, but it was cute. It was fun. Yeah. Why not?
I agree with you. I agree with you. Why don't you tell us about the next one though?
Yes, now I will give a summary for Red Sonja Halloween Special from 2018. This is The Curse of the Wolf. The writer here is Eric Burnham, who I think, is he like a big Turtles guy?
Yeah. He did a bunch of the tie-in stuff of like the main IDW run for a long time, and now he's writing a Saturday Morning Adventures, which comes back. So you will see him again.
Which is probably why I was just like, I recognize that name.
Yeah.
And the artist is Tom Garcia. During the Festival of the Dead, an old woman hires Sonja to find and save her son from a terrible evil. What Sonja is not told is that the terrible evil is the curse of lycanthropy. Can Sonja defeat a werewolf during one of the longest and most magic-filled nights of the year, or will skill and luck finally fail her? She goes out from town to hunt down this guy. A man goes with her because hubris, I suppose. I actually think he had a cute reason for going with. I liked Connor, might have been his name. The werewolf beheads him, unfortunately, and Sonja battles the werewolf as well as as well as her like own psychological battles with a person I'm assuming is a huge Red Sonja villain.
Yeah.
How'd you like it, Jay?
Firstly, I am so glad this was in here. One, just to wash the taste of the last Red Sonja we did out of your mouth, and give you something that I think is a much better Red Sonja story. And secondly, I don't know that I knew that Eric Burnham had ever done some Red Sonja, so this was a fun little treat for me.
A treat.
Yeah, little treat. No, I thought this was really, really cool. I really enjoyed this. Like you said, I think a lot of the stuff in this actually, like, despite it being like that cool little Halloween story, for it. Like I think the logic all tracked really well for me. Like I think everything was very logical. The way that, like, okay, the grandma who turns out to be a ghost, which is really cool. Like goes and you know, gets Red Sonja's help. She's like, you gotta save my grandson, whatever. And then you know, this guy who is scared feels like he needs to come with. Great, whatever. He gets beheaded. But then we get the like twist that no, the grandson is the monster that she killed, and you get that after she did it too. So it's just extra impactful. And yeah, this is a twist that works really well backwards as well as forwards. Yeah. You know, I really like. I always like. We talked about it with Hellboy the Crooked Man. I always like when there's some sort of like very good like religious in-world like motivations for things, like the grandmother being like, no, you had to save his soul, and that being the big motivation is so cool to me. So I love this. I thought this was really, really great, and the art was really good for you know, Red Sonja Conan stories. Really, like those Wandering Barbarian stories really rely on great art. So that this being really, really great here as well really knocks it up a peg. So yeah, I love this, and I'm interested to hear how you feel, because your last exposure for Red Sonja didn't go great. I'm hoping this was better.
This was much better. I actually really, really liked this. I still hate Sonja's design. Like, I know it's classic or whatever, but I just think that it's both boring and distracting, and not for the reason they wanted to be distracting. But yeah, the story and the characterization of both Sonja, and I really, really liked Connor's motivation, because he like beat or lost to Red Sonja in an arm wrestling match, and then he was being a bit of a puss about actually going to help this person's son. Yeah. And he comes with her because he's like, I just made myself seem like a coward, so I need to go.
Because they had like some sort of like event, whatever it was like, by the end of this thing, if you don't want to go out, and that was also her deadline for. I'm just remembering this now, so I feel like the need to explain it. That was also the deadline for when the son's soul would have been lost, but the grandmother told her it's when her son was going to be killed. So just the way that tied in, like the deadline was the thing he didn't want to go out before, was like a nice little, just a little thing that worked really so well.
It was a bummer that he got beheaded right away, because I thought he was fun.
It was.
But yeah, then I really, really enjoyed the interaction that Sonja had with that wizard. She just kept calling him a foul wizard. I forget what his actual name is. But like, I love the idea of being like tormented by your old foes, and the taunts that this creature was going to defeat her and then like send her to hell where then he was going to be able to fuck with her was a very good vibe. I also feel like it's a good thing when you have someone who, just from my perspective, Red Sonja feels like someone who should be able to deal with a werewolf pretty handily. Having that spectral force there to be like fucking with her and throwing her off her game, I think was really good for adding stakes to the fight. And yeah, I think that the werewolf twist was phenomenal. The reveal afterwards that she wanted Red Sonja to kill her son so that his soul could be freed was so good. I like this a whole lot. I think this is an unattended bowl.
I agree. This is another one of those where I think you just like stumble into sometimes in these specials and these things, like creators just get to do what they want to do and they create something that's just awesome. And I think this is another one. I do think I like the Transformers story slightly better.
Agreed.
But that was phenomenal.
There we go.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's an unattended bowl right there. So good. Let's talk about Sonic. This is, I think, the first Sonic comic I ever read, which is funny because I'm a huge IDW fan, and IDW probably next most iconically to being the Turtles publisher is the Sonic the Hedgehog publisher. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what are the. Oh God, it's in the thing. Nice. The Chaotix. This is about the Chaotix. Oh, by the way, this is the Sonic the Hedgehog Halloween special from 2023. Writer Mark Bouchard and artist Jack Lawrence. So we follow kind of the Chaotix Detective Agency, which is a little detective group in the Sonic world, and they have a couple people come to them because their candy has been stolen, and we find out these kids like staging these like monsters to like steal candy.
Yeah, they've made like a big robotic monster.
Yeah, exactly. And Sonic and Tails come in as well because Tails' plane, apparently Tails has a plane, is like flying overhead, and they
it's like
I don't know anything about Sonic. I don't know anything about Sonic. Fair enough. So this is all me just finding out things.
Amazing.
So they see the Chaotix and they decide to, instead of doing their own Halloween thing, they're gonna help them. So they kind of bust up this candy racket, and it's very similar to the Spider-Man one, where you get like, instead of like, we're gonna like just stop the villain, you get like that kind of like teaching them a lesson of like, everybody deserves their candy or whatever. And apparently once they get all the candy back, they have enough to give everybody half a pillowcase of candy, and that's kind of the ending of the story.
Which points to them for having their candy in pillowcases. As we established, that's the
but also like
way.
Half a pillowcase? Damn. What about that kid who totally had his full pillowcase stolen, and now he only gets half? They did candy communism.
And also the bad guys, like, once they were handing out candy, were like, wow, I didn't realize how good it feels to help people. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, no, you stole all that candy from like crying children.
It is a similar vein to the Rhino one, where it's meant to be like in all ages, very much geared towards kids comic.
Yeah.
But I think that it goes a little too much with the lesson learning and stuff in it. And it's like a little too cheesy for me.
Weirdly, maybe it's because I don't care about Sonic as much. I preferred this over the Spider-Man one. I think maybe just because I didn't care about the characters as much going in. So I was like, to me, I just fully went, this is a for children story. I think this works really well as a for children's, Halloween story. So yeah, I like this a little bit more than the Spider-Man one.
I don't know.
Mainly because while the lesson learned goes harder, none of them were as dumb as Rhino was. Like
That's fair. Like I'm with you that it's not as horrible a character assassination. I don't think it was a particularly exciting story though. Like they don't really get to have like a good fight with the robot or anything. And like Sonic is a fighter, Like there wasn't any fun action going on, which I think would have been a big boon to the book. I very much saw this as like a bottom healthy snack top of plastic junk.
Oh, really?
I'm not really a Sonic person. I played the computer Sonic games and have seen the Sonic movies, and the amount of Shadow the Hedgehog I played. Mom, if you're watching, cover your ears. When we had our computer growing up, we had already played a bunch of the Sonic games, and we found Shadow the Hedgehog, and we were like, Mom, can we get Shadow the Hedgehog? And she was like, yeah, because we weren't allowed to have games with guns or games where you were killing people. Shadow the Hedgehog uses a gun to kill people. So we were just playing Shadow the Hedgehog and being like, oh yeah, it's just a Sonic game, whatever. But see, I am not an authority on Sonic.
I think this is certainly better than the 2008 Halloween special at the very least.
We can pop it up.
I liked it better than the Betty Page, but I probably would have gone there, but I'll defer.
Yeah, I think the other downfall of it was just that it was too long for its own good.
Yeah, that's super fair too. That's fair. That's fair. It
I think that's why I was left with such a bad taste for it.
That's super fair. That's super fair. But do you want to hit the next one?
Yeah. So this is I didn't plan it like this. I'm sorry, getting all the DC ones. This is from the DC 2010 Halloween special, Robin the Vampire Slayer. The writer is Joe Harris, and the artist is Lee Garbett. Batman and Robin, this is Dick and Damian as Batman and Robin, I don't remember why they ended up in the graveyard, but they're hunting vampires, and they find iVampire, who has a name that I'm sure is good. That's a weird way to describe a name, but whatever. But yeah, so they end up using his knowledge of vampires to kill a bunch of vampires, and then learn that actually those vampires were holding iVampire hostage, so they actually just saved him, which is okay, because I don't think he's like a bad guy, but they weren't thrilled that they had now released him.
Yeah.
The plot of this one was a little wacky, but it was a lot of vampire, not really a lot of vampire action, a little bit of vampire action.
Yeah. Did you read the creative team?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Joe Harris and Lee Garbett.
If you read it, I just must have
yes,
died for a moment there.
He died.
No, the one thing I'll say is I really did like the art of this one.
Right.
I want to give that a shout out. I thought this looked real nice. I like the way that Batman and Robin both looked quite a bit. This is weirdly maybe the first time I'm ever gonna say this about an anthology story. You know the old saying of start your anthology story as late as possible.
Yeah.
I felt like this started too late.
Right?
Which is weird to say. And I also just didn't think the story was particularly great, you know?
Agreed.
It just was a little weird. I think the way that you kind of like stumbled a little bit over the, like, not that you fucked up the recap at all,
No,
but
yeah,
just the clunkiness of the recap, I think, speaks to some extent of the clunkiness of this story.
I would agree with that.
So yeah, I didn't really like this. I thought this was really not great at all.
My other big problem with it is, in a kind of like classic Damien and Dick way, they're like, okay, we want to find a different way to kill these vampires so we're not like killing people. And there's this really inscrutable moment, in my opinion, where they burst in through a massive stained glass window, which the imagery of the Batman cape through the stained glass, phenomenal. And so they crash in and they start fighting vampires. And then Dick notices one of them like dying in the sunlight. And then there's just a blast of sunlight next to him. And all the vampires die. And I don't know what was supposed to have happened there. Because they already broke in through a window. The window was already shattered.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It was weird. A lot of it was weird. Yeah. I'm not a fan, and
Yeah, I don't think this was a great entry. And as someone who's normally, like, the reason I picked it is because, like, oh, it's 2010, Batman and Robin, amazing.
Yeah.
And I was not, they didn't even really interact all that much in a way that made me go, like, yeah, my boys. So yeah, I didn't love this. Where would you rate this?
I don't think it's quite Razor Blade.
Not quite.
I weirdly, because you don't, you said you didn't know if anything. I do have a Razor Blade that we're gonna get to. But I think this is classic junk. I think this is the worst story so far.
Agreed. Like, even beneath the Unscrutable the Max.
Yeah.
And the Unscrutable Troll.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Avengers Halloween Special 2018, Punisher of the Opera.
I couldn't help but pick this
Jay
one.
Burchill.
Oh, he's waiting for me to.
No,
I couldn't help but pick this one.
You cut it out there a little bit.
Did I? Oh, did
yeah. Sorry,
it's fine.
And the artist is Luca Pizzeri. So in any case, this is kind of an alternate universe Punisher origin story, where Punisher's wife is an opera singer and is killed by her understudy, who wants the part, and that kind of spawns this universe's Punisher, and we get a little revenge quest from him, where he has like a nice line where it's like, I'm not after revenge, I'm after I'm not after something, I'm after punishment, which
it's
was
like
really
his purpose is not revenge, it's punishment.
Yeah, which was rad.
Right.
Overall, I just thought this was rad. This was really freaking
and like art. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, and his design. Oh my god.
Are you at all familiar with the Phantom of the Opera?
Familiar as in I've heard of it and I've like seen images, but not in the terms where I have any actual.
Yeah, this was very fun from a Phantom of the Opera perspective of like, oh, the Phantom is like not a weirdo creep, and like the idea of him stalking Christine with the intent of killing her was so cool. I think that they did a really, really wonderful job with this one.
Yeah,
and
I really
enjoyed art, again, phenomenal. The action, they do the iconic chandelier falling, and that's how he kills Christine, which is so cool. Oh, rad.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was really, really cool. Do you have a tier for us?
I think this one might be... I'm really tempted to put it in Unattended Bowl. But I'm wondering if I'm being like swept up in my excitement about the art. But also, should that not be a very important factor? What do you think?
No, that definitely should be an important factor. I personally, I think, am leaning more king size. I don't think it has
I'm
quite
fine with top
like
of
it's a
king
good, fun
size.
short story. Our Unattended Bowls are like good, full stories with
That's
you
fair.
know
That is very
arcs
fair.
and twists.
Yeah.
Like this, I think is for its length about as good as it can be, but it's
Mhm.
or at least for like its content. Because I don't think the Red
Right.
Sonja story was super. Or maybe it was. I don't remember
It
now
was
the length of that, but I don't
longer
think that was super
than the
long.
other short stories you read, for the most
Yeah,
part.
but
But yeah, let's put it
yeah.
at
In any
top of
case,
king size
yeah,
then.
yes,
So I liked
I
it
agree.
better than the
I agree.
detective story.
Yeah,
But that's going to take us to another Marvel book. This is the Test Kitchen Halloween special from 2022. What I have gathered from reading this is that this is a webtoon style story, and the gimmick of it is that it follows. Oh, I forget her name.
Is
I'm a
it? It's
dingus. Do you have it pulled
the.
up?
I don't have it pulled up. You don't have
Oh
it
no,
in
we're
here.
both fools.
It's the shit. Give me a second. I'm
She's
getting
very
it. I'm
cute.
getting it.
I'm also trying to
Um,
get it. Oh my gosh, we're both
I
buffoons.
see her. I don't see her name. Mika.
Right?
Mika.
Mika. No, Mika is the robot.
Oh, Mika's the robot. Never mind. I just saw the first. I just went for the first name.
Oh
That popped up.
no. Oh
Where is her
no.
name? Where the
Where's her
fuck is her name in
name?
this story?
I am
Why is it
feeling
so
much better
deep?
about
Anna.
not
Is it
remembering her
Anna?
name now. Yes. Her name
Anna.
is Anna. And she seems to work with Tony
Yeah.
in a chef capacity. And
Yeah.
the gimmick of the webtoon is that they have the recipe for whatever it is that she's cooking at the end.
Yeah.
And they're doing kind of like a almost a hybrid Thanksgiving Halloween thing where they're making little treats to hand out at a soup kitchen. And we see a bunch of the iconic characters from the Marvel
Yeah.
universe have
Yeah.
come to hand out soup, which is very cute. The big conflict of it is kind of par for the course for what I think this series is, which is that Tony wanted one thing and she says, "No, that's boring. I'm going to make something else." It was cute. It's fine. How'd you feel? Yeah, that's fair. It's never good
this
when I
nothing.
keep calling something cute.
This was nothing. There was no story.
Yeah.
It was like, Tony said to make this. No, I make this. I show up. It's made. People like it. Here's the recipe. There is legitimately no story arc.
Yeah.
There's no characterization. There's nothing. It's literally like there's nothing to grab onto here, which is unfortunate. And maybe that seems like that was the gimmick of this thing. Like Katie said, like it seems like it's just kind of a vehicle to give you recipes, show you some Marvel characters, have some fun, which is fine. But I don't think it did literally anything on either an art or a writing level that was particularly interesting. So
I am fine to plop this in razor blades.
Yeah, this was, if you have not gathered, this was my my razor blade. I don't think it was particularly.
It was certainly rough. But we have two more to go through. Yeah. You ready to take us through the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yes. So this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures Halloween special number 1, a very spirited duel written by Eric Burnham and art by Dan Schoening. So we follow Krang and Shredder in this story in the one shot, and so Shredder has tried to appeal to like spirits to help him in his in their task to take over the world and take down the turtles, and the spirits kind of like not having it, so he like summons a phantom Leonardo who funnily looks like the Mirage Leonardo, which is nice nice little thing.
Like, and something you're
kind of just stalls. He plays on Shredder's like like ego and gets him to kind of waste his time until the candle that was used to summon him burns all the way out, and he disappears without having to actually help Shredder and Krang at all, leaving Shredder in a very 87 Shredder way, thwarted in a very like, oh no, my ego got the better of me kind of way. So yeah, it was a very basic story. I feel like it was the shorter one out of the two. I believe it had much less space in the issue, but it was a lot of fun, and it was very well illustrated by Dan Schoening.
Yeah. It was. I think that the characterization of Shredder was super duper awesome in it. I did not like Krang at all. I don't know if that's how he normally is. Like making quips about yogurt and moral compasses and
in the
spirits and stuff.
87 things, yeah, that's kind of how a lot of people are in the 87.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't like Krang. He was the worst part of it for me, and to a point where it like was distracting every time he spoke. So I didn't like Krang at all, but I really liked Shredder, and I did really like the swordsman as well, the like master swordsman. I thought it was a fun little romp. Yeah, nothing crazy really from me. But again, it was short. It was fun. How did you feel as our Turtles aficionado?
I felt like it was very fun. Fantastic art. Want to give Dan Schroeder. I do, you chose you didn't choose the Sarah Meyer story, which was a little bit of a disappointment.
I thought about it, but then I really liked because I was scrolling through, I saw the spiritual swordsman. I was like, I want to know what this is.
That's very fair. That's very fair. No, I thought it was very enjoyable. I liked the vibe of getting to do a black and white Leonardo through like a very cool, spirit way. So that was a lot of fun. It was very basic, but it is like I think despite not being overly familiar with especially the 87 version of the Turtles, you hit the nail on the head that this was a really good use of like this version of Shredder, kind of the more typical 80s cartoon villain Shredder compared to like the terrifying normal version of Shredder that you get in most other continuities. But yeah, it was short and a fun story, but it didn't really go beyond that. I thought this was you're the one who has to give the tier first, so I'm not gonna say that, but I thought this was very solid, but not like phenomenal.
Yeah, I was gonna give this above Spider-Man in snack size.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
Perfect.
So
yeah,
well,
and I will say, if Krang wasn't there being really bad at whatever it is he was doing, I probably would have put it even higher up, above Hellboy even.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, probably would have broken it to snack size, but I hated Krang. But that takes us to our very last book, and I'm going to also make Joe do the recap of this one, because I specifically Googled if there was a Ben 10 Halloween special, because I'm like, I feel like there must have been.
Yeah, so let's yeah.
Oh, he has his power rings, but he doesn't have his Omnitrix.
I actually don't own an Omnitrix. I own an Ultimatrix.
Okay.
But I never got the normal Omnitrix because Ultimate Alien was what was coming out when I really started getting like a lot of toys and stuff. And I always thought the Ultimatrix was the coolest version of the Omnitrix because it's like a full, like, not gauntlet because it doesn't have the hand, but it's like a full gauntlet size thing instead of just a watch. And I was like, it's bulkier. This is why I like 90s comics, because I was always, as a kid, like, bigger is better. If it's bulkier, if it's bigger, it looks more powerful. And so I want it.
Astounding.
In any case, the writer is Joel Enos, and the artist is Alan Brown on the Ben 10 Omniverse Halloween Special #1, Undertown Halloween. So just as the title suggests, this is Ben telling the residents of Undertown, which if you're not familiar with Ben 10, is a town underneath the main town of Bellwood, which houses a lot of the aliens that live on the world now. And he's kind of teaching them about Halloween. They're all talking about basically which of Ben's aliens they want to go as for Halloween. Ben ends up fighting what the fuck is the guy's name? I'm gonna forget it now.
I sprung this recap on him.
I'm not gonna find the name of the. I want to point out that this villain is the lackey is not. I can't remember the lackey's name just because I'm blanking. But the villain, I believe, is this comic book created him. I'm guessing not for this specific comic book. I'm guessing he was in the the comic book run or whatever that was going on. But he is not a villain, unless he's like a one-off Omniverse villain that I'm forgetting because I've only seen Omniverse through like once. But he's not like a recurring villain. Yeah. But in any case, fights him, and then the guy ends up going to the Halloween party as Ben 10 anyway. So they all have a good time at this Halloween party. It's a very short story. It's like 7 pages, something like that. But yeah, it's essentially Ben teaching the Undertown residents about Halloween, fighting some bad guys, and then they all go to a Halloween party. As Blocks, by the way. He fights them as Blocks, which is one of my preferred aliens that was introduced in Omniverse. So that was a nice treat. Yeah, Katie, do you want to tell us what you thought about this as somebody who is this your first exposure to Ben 10? Because that's sad. That's really sad.
No. The thing is, it is genuinely a tragedy that I wasn't a Ben 10 kid because I would have been so into Ben 10. You at one point were gushing about Ben 10, so I started watching it from the start while I was just organizing my comics. So I've seen probably like 10 episodes from the start, and I like it a lot.
It's really good. It's real good. You'll especially like Ultimate, the Ultimate Alien Force era, which was the show Alien Force and Ultimate Alien. There's like, for whatever reason, that one's split into 2 shows. Most of the shows get like a full new art style and, you know, cast and stuff every show, but that one got 2. You'll like that era, I think, a lot. Because it's,
all right, I'm making my way that way gradually.
It's the more DC esque era, I'll say. Like, it feels more like, you know, traditional superhero stuff that we, you know.
Rad, love it.
We've completely lost the plot.
Very much feels like a cartoon tie-in comic. Like it, the elements on the page don't feel like they work particularly well together, in my opinion. Like it's in a distracting way. And the story was probably more fun for a fan of Ben 10 who like recognizes the aliens that they're dressing up as and doing fun things as. I did really like their bit about, because Ben had mentioned costume parties and had mentioned trick-or-treating separately from that. All of the aliens went trick-or-treating. Yeah, they weren't wearing costumes. I thought that was a really funny bit. But yeah, overall, I wasn't like terribly impressed by it. But how did you feel?
Yeah. Even as a Ben 10 fan, I didn't really love it. It was, you know, I didn't think that it did anything particularly great with any of the characters. It was just Ben telling them what Halloween was and then like fighting through the background as they, you know, experienced Halloween for the first time, I guess. Yeah, and especially it's a tie into my least favorite Ben 10 or main continuity Ben 10 show. So yeah, it was a little disappointing to me. I thought it was, you know, fine. I don't know. I'm probably between like bottom of Healthy Snack and top of Plastic Junk is where I'm
I'm fine with top of Plastic Junk, because I was gonna say Plastic Junk below Troll, but I'm fine with top of Plastic Junk. That's fair. All right. Do you want to run through it, because that's the last of our books?
Yeah. This is right now.
Yeah, this is gonna be your test. Can you identify all of these from their?
Well, I'm gonna do half, and then you're gonna do the other half.
Shit.
That's how this goes. But I think I can do this actually. Now
I believe in you.
I feel pretty good now. So we're gonna start. Actually, I guess we usually do. Do we want to move anything? Is now that everything's on the board. That's usually where we go.
I feel pretty good about where stuff is.
Yeah, I feel really good about this one.
Maybe with Hellboy Jr. beneath the Turtles, actually.
Okay.
Like, at least the Turtles had more, like, with the Ghost, it was a little more Halloween. And that little chunk of whatever looked like a pumpkin.
That's fair. So, let's start at the top with Unattended Bowl. We have the Transformers Halloween special. I'm not going to get years on this stuff, so I apologize. The Transformers Halloween special at the very top, followed by the Red Sonja Halloween special below that for our top 2. Do you want to switch off every tier, or do you want
to
do the first one?
Okay. In king size, we have
Avengers.
Oh, the Avengers one. The Punisher of the Opera, and then the Rule of 3 from Xenoscope.
Yeah. Then in snack size, we have at the top the DC Halloween special 2009, which is the Superman haunted house one. I don't remember the name of the story, but that's
my turn to be scary.
And then we have the Ninja Turtles one below that. Also do not remember the name of that
Spirited
story.
Duel.
Katie's got all these on lock. Then we got the Hellboy Jr. one, which I do have. Devil Don't Smoke. I jumped in there. I was like, I'm not letting you do that. And then we have the Marvel, the Mighty Marvel Halloween special, Halloween with the Rhino, rounding out the bottom of snack size.
Yes, and then we jump into Healthy Snack, which starts off with the Betty Page War of the Worlds short, then the Sonic the Hedgehog Halloween special, then the Etrigan DC special.
Yes. Yeah. Then in Plastic Junk at the top, we have the Ben 10 Omniverse special number 1, Undertown Halloween. Underneath that, we have the Troll Halloween special, the crossover with the Max. And below that we have, I believe, the 2010 DC Halloween special,
Mhm.
which is the Batman and Robin vampire. It's Robin. It's like Robin the Vampire Hunter, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in our bottom tier here, in Razorblade, which, am I crazy? Is Razor not spelled with an O?
I think it is. I think Razor Scooter spent with an E.
Oh no! Oops.
And I just went full blown Razor Scooter, but that's fine.
You know what? Even more horrifying than a Razor Blade is a Razor Scooter Blade. That is going to be the Marvel Infinity Test Kitchen Halloween special. But that rounds out our list, and that rounds out our episode. Thank you for joining us on this sweet, sweet, spooky season. Of course, we have all of our classic haunts coming to you. We've got our episode from last Wednesday with our full pull list rec, including The Pedestrian, and there were so many other good things. It was a very good week. What else was in there, Jay?
I gave something the new Titans run. The new Titans run.
And new Titans. Super rad. Yeah. A lot of good things in there. And then this coming week, we of course have our polls there, which is going to have Nightwing in it.
This coming Saturday? I don't know that we do. We're going to have something for you guys. It should be our Massiverse, right? That's usually what we do the first.
Maybe, unless Superman comes out on Wednesday.
Superman doesn't come out this week. It's the week after that.
So we'll probably talk about a Massiverse book or some other trade.
So be ready for that. Probably, maybe, possibly.
Yeah. Because I think this might be a bonus Saturday. In any case.
Yeah, it's weird because this Wednesday is still in this month, but the Saturday I believe is next month. So we're in the last week of the month in terms of the thing, because the first week of next month is when Superman comes out, but it'll be the second Saturday.
There we go. So maybe we'll just do our Strange Saturday next week. We'll see. Since our second Saturday of the month will be Superman.
Oh yeah, that's
because that's when we're going to do our absolute fantasy recap. We'll go through all the absolute books and assign the points for our fantasy football league.
Yeah, it'll be very fun. But in any case, hope to see you all next week. Comic Geeks.